Haiti today celebrates 200 years since it declared independence from France. It's a bittersweet moment as France, at the time, imposed by force heavy reparations for the loss of its slaves that impoverished the Caribbean nation, which became the first black-governed post-colonial state. 2 centuries on from independence, Haiti is one of the world's poorest countries and is prey to violent gangs who control much of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Protesters took to the streets of the capital on Wednesday to demand protection from gang violence. Caroline Baum reports.
On April 17, 1825, France recognized Haitian independence in exchange for 150 million gold francs, a huge sum at the time, in what it called compensation for former colonists. It immediately plunged the newly independent nation into suffocating debt. 200 years later, Haiti is one of the most dangerous countries in the world, where people regularly fall victim to looting and attacks in an ongoing gang war. Frustrated Haitians took to the street Wednesday in Port-au-Prince, a city 85% controlled by gangs.
Haitian people want to see development. We've been waiting for it for a long time. We see that gangs are everywhere. We're going to storm the Prime Minister's office. The Presidential Council is keeping the country and the population hostage.
Haiti, ruled by a transitional government since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021, has been plagued by gang violence for years. Protesters are demanding protection by the government from the brutality that has killed thousands and left over 1 million homeless. The UN says the situation is only getting worse.
There are now 1 million people who've been displaced. I had the chance to see some of the humanitarian sites, the sites for the displaced people in the capital, and you just see thousands of people who are stacked one on top of the other in very, very tight quarters.
The Haitian government announced a war budget of $275,000 Monday, primarily slated for police reinforcement, but also for small-scale social programs. The UN has called for over $650 million to address the humanitarian situation in Haiti. But funding is few and far between, especially in the context of recent cuts to American foreign aid.
And for more on this 200th anniversary of Haiti's independence, I can bring in Rosa Freedman, who is Professor of Law, Conflict and Global Development at the University of Reading. Good morning, Rosa, and thank you for joining us. This bicentennial is a momentous anniversary for Haiti, but also quite a bitter one.
Yes, of course. Every anniversary for Haiti is a great celebration and a bitter one, because we have to remember Haiti was the first country to throw off the yoke of colonialism and to free its slaves from European colonial powers, but it paid a heavy price for that. And while all other countries in the region and indeed around the world credit Haiti with their eventual freedom and the end of slavery, Haiti is the country that remains one of the least developed as a direct result of winning that freedom 200 years ago. Now,
they did throw off the yoke of imperialism before practically anyone else, or well, except perhaps with the exception of South American countries. But it really came, as you say, as a cost. France imposed these reparations of 150 million francs for the loss of French-owned slaves. Now, to give viewers a sense of the size of that, that's estimated at between 30 and 40 billion euros in modern day money. It's also 10 times the amount that France had received from the United States for the Louisiana Purchase 10 years earlier. And this still has massive effects in Haiti.
In order to end the decades-long war between France and Haiti, this treaty was negotiated whereby Haiti would pay back for each of its own people who were slaves. Remember, almost every person that lived on the island before the French and the Spanish came in was killed. And then almost everyone who now lives in Haiti is a direct descendant of slaves born in Africa and brought from Africa to populate the country. Haiti is one of the most resource-rich countries in the world. It produced more than 50% of the world's sugarcane at one point, and the brutality with which those slaves were treated is documented as being the worst in history. Now, In order to free its own people, Haiti agreed, really with French guns pointing at their heads, to pay back double the amount, as you say, to what the United States paid for Louisiana, and to pay back per person. But it obviously couldn't afford to. It had no money, so it had to borrow money from French banks in order to pay this debt, which simply increased the debt because of the interest on each of the loans for each of the repayments. So rather than Haiti using its resources to build roads and schools and hospitals and to develop the country, using this vast wealth of natural resources, instead it was kept in poverty, almost as a punishment for winning its freedom. And that poverty, as you say, is estimated by some to be up to $44 billion in today's terms. But when we think about $44 billion in terms of, say, the economy of France or the UK or the United States, percentage-wise, it's not so huge. But if we think about that money in terms of the size of the Haitian economy, it's a vast sum of money.
Now, President Emmanuel Macron is expected to make a statement today on this anniversary. Is there any chance of the French state offering an apology for what is perceived by many as a historic injustice?
There are different types of reparations, and symbolic ones like an apology or like a memorial are, of course, important in that way of acknowledging responsibility. But even if Macron were to offer an apology, and he says it will be a landmark statement, but we have heard previously Hollande, for example, offering some forms of apologies for what occurred not only in Haiti before the revolution, but also the sovereign debt and the subsequent treatment of Haiti by France and other countries who have interfered in its politics since that time. But really, apologies are not what Haitians need. As one Haitian once said to us around apologies for the UN bringing cholera into the country, he said, apologies won't feed my children. There needs to be more than just symbolic reparations. In terms of colonial harms around the world, I saw that UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer offered apologies recently at a Commonwealth summit. There needs to be more than that. There needs to be reparations. There needs to be a way of putting countries back into the position that they would have been in, but for the colonial wrongs, the taking away of resources, this slavery, and then the ongoing wrongs being done to countries, particularly to Haiti, around the sovereign debt.
Now, 2 years ago, Macron paid tribute to the Haitian revolutionary leader, Toussaint Louverture. It was on the 175th anniversary of France's abolition of the slave trade. Now, is there a sense that France and perhaps other former colonial countries are really going for an option that's a lot easier for them than actual redress?
Of course, because given the current global economic climate, given the way that countries, particularly if you look at the United States, are retracting their own overseas aid programs, they're focusing on using that money, say, for irregular migration and asylum seekers in their own states. They're using that money to prop up their own economies, which, you know, with inflation and interest rates and now with the Trump tariffs are increasingly fragile. There will be little appetite at home for France to repay that debt or provide material reparations. But let's remember that these countries, many of them paid back their own nationals who were slave owners when they abolished slavery. They gave redress to those who had profited from brutality and owning human beings and forcing them into labor, because they recognized that economically those people would lose out. And yet they didn't pay any reparations or give any redress to those former slaves or their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and any descendants, let alone looking at the countries from which they had stolen resources and become rich on the basis of stealing those resources.
Now, today, Haiti is grappling with gang warfare, which about 85% of the capital, Port-au-Prince, is estimated to be under gang control. It compounds the worst poverty in the Americas. Disasters such as the 2010 earthquake have also complicated things. And we've also seen that a recent Kenyan delegation of police to help combat the gangs has been severely underfunded. Does Haiti continue to be failed by the international community?
Haiti has not been given an opportunity since France left to rule over itself, to have sovereignty over its own resources, and to be able to determine its own political future. For many years, countries like the United States simply walked in and took over the politics in Haiti. Or the United Nations has intervened whenever Haitians have held free and fair elections. They've deposed freely and fairly elected leaders like Aristide, who most recently was deposed by the international community after demanding that France repay the sovereign debt that they owe to Haiti. The political instability comes from this international interference. There is a layer of racism that, Haiti, the first black sovereign republic, is not allowed to choose who rules over it, that Haitians are not given a true say in their political future, that the international community will intervene time and again, and this simply stokes the instability. But it's not only from the international community. There are huge corruption in Haiti, with many of the elites living outside of the country, selling off resources cheaply in a corrupt way to international actors. And the gangs are there. They started really as protecting their neighborhoods from dictators, from international interference. But the gangs sometimes support the government. Sometimes are opposing the government, often are opposing the international actors. And so you have this triangulation of instability that will only change when the international interference stops. And that includes the Kenyan police force who neither speak the language nor understand the local context. What needs to happen is Haitian solutions for Haitian problems. There needs to be support for the Haitian police, support not just financial, but all forms of resources and training. There needs to be support for the vibrant and strong civil society in Haiti to have a true seat at the table and, decision-making powers within the government. And there needs to be support for Haiti to become a developed country, partly through financial resources, but also through supporting Haitians to build their own institutions and infrastructure rather than having international actors coming in and imposing things on them that they don't need.
Thank you very much for that, Rosa Freedman, Professor of Law, Conflict and Global Development at the University of Reading.